Kaufman.
Good evening and welcome to Close-Ups. My first guest is an actor full of contradictions. Nicolas Cage dropped out of high school, but he is the son of a college professor. Cage's birth name is Coppola, but he changed it when he realized he was rejected for film roles because Coppola is the last name of his uncle, film director Francis Ford Coppola. And while the 31-year-old's resume is varied, Cage is best known for playing offbeat characters.
I lost my hand! I lost my bride! Johnny has his hand! Johnny has his bride! You want me to...
Even when he made the leap to romantic leading man, his wooden-handed character was a neurotic baker with a passion for opera.
Beautiful.
We are here to ruin ourselves and to break our hearts.
Did you marry him?
In Honeymoon in Vegas, he recaptures his girl's love, but not without falling to great depths. In an earlier film, his character wears snakeskin jackets as a personal symbol of individuality. And in one of his first roles, Cage plays a likable lowlife who turns to kidnapping and robbery to provide his sterile wife with a baby.
See me now.
And in his latest, Cage
Jimmy,
teams up
answer me
with former
this.
NYPD Blue television star David Caruso and Academy Award nominee Samuel L. Jackson. Cage plays psychotic muscle man Little Jr. in Kiss of Death. You were pumped up in this movie, physically and mentally. How did you prepare for the physical part? Because you look much bigger than you've ever been.
Yeah, well, I was. I had to work pretty hard at that. I ate a lot of food. I ate a lot of protein shakes.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I did, and I lifted heavy weights and stayed away from any kind of fat-burning exercise like jogging or anything like that.
So how did you like yourself when you saw yourself in the movie?
Well, it wasn't quite as pumped up as I had wanted to be in my mind. I had a different look, but it still had that sort of pit bull thing, which is what the look was that I think was appropriate for the part. But it's not something I would want to have in my everyday life.
Now, what about the mental part? Because that man was out of control.
Well, it's funny you say that because it's like being in control while being out of control.
But you know, in many instances, you have played these psycho-crazed roles, even as the baker in Moonstruck. You had your moments. Is that a hidden part of you, or is that just something you just do for the camera?
Well, it's funny because I'm really having fun. Like in that scene, I was having fun in Moonstruck, the baker. I mean, that was... I guess you could call it psycho-crazed, or you could call it kind of just a surrealist impression of interpretation. I mean, I had big, lofty ideals when I started acting. I was a young guy. I was 17, and I wanted to be the Picasso of film acting, you know. So I thought, well, if he can draw pictures of his wife with her mouth hanging open, why can't I, you know, do that? Or do this, you know. So that's what I was trying to be free. Now I'm more interested in a more contained kind of style of acting. But it's all about styles, really, I think.
When you talk about styles, and I was preparing for this interview, I read that at the age of 10, you really did take on a gangster role to protect your rear end.
Yeah, I was on a bus, and there were a lot of bullies on the bus who wanted to take my Twinkie out of my lunch sack. And they would do it every morning, and I loved Twinkies. You know, I was really into them, and they would take it every day. And then so I would go home, and I got some dark sunglasses and some gum and some cowboy boots and some jeans, and I just felt different. I walked different. I had an attitude. I called myself Roy Richards, and I was Nicky's cousin, and if you touch him again or steal his Twinkie, I'm going to, you know, kick your butt. And I could see it was like, are you sure you're not? You know, no, I'm not Nicky. I'm Roy Richards. And and the next day they did leave me alone. It was an interesting experiment. I knew then that I could maybe do this, probably subconsciously.
But when you look at your family, you come from a family of performers. I mean, one of your grandfathers was a flautist, and I know that your father was a professor, and to be a professor, you really have to have some acting. Your mother was a dancer and a choreographer. Yeah. But the description of you in class was loudmouth and troublemaker.
Class clown.
Class clown.
Yeah.
Why?
That's how I made my friends, you know, by being silly, by being completely ridiculous. I mean, I was lucky in that I had ability to access a kind of comedy, a sense of humor that which really saved my whole childhood, because I was able to make friends with it and get through school and enjoy going to school with it.
You have 2 older brothers. Were they serious, and were you the nut?
I was considered like, you know, crazy Nicky, oh, he's going to do something goofy, you know, the nut in a playful way, you know, like the comedy, you know, just the goofball.
But you made horror films with your brothers. Why this fascination with horror films, and do any of them still exist?
Well, I don't, you know, that's funny. I don't know where they are, and I wish they did exist, because I'd love to see them. We were doing all kinds of things like that, radio shows, and you know, seances, and we were sort of the odd family on the block. You know, they called us the Addams family, because we weren't into sports. Our father didn't play ball with us. We didn't know, we were discoordinated, and so that's what we did, and puppet shows, things of that kind of nature.
But you had an uncle, Francis Ford Coppola, who I'm sure everybody either loved you for it or hated it for you. What was the good part and the bad part of being his nephew?
Well, you know, the good part of it was that I got to see amazing things. You know, when I'd go visit him and my cousins, you know, I remember once they had baby tiger cubs that were visiting their house, and I was petting this tiger cub, but it was always kind of like sad when I had to leave, because we didn't, well, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, it was like, you know, we didn't have the same kind of stuff. So in a way, it gave me a golden key. It made me ambitious. It made me want to go out and get it for myself.
Besides acting, Nicolas Cage loves muscle cars and antique watches.
Yeah, I love watches. I love mechanical things, although I'm one of those guys that mechanical things short-circuit around me. I mean, if I go to a movie, I swear sometimes the projector will stop. I mean, it's weird. I have to always have my phone machine replaced. I don't know what it is. It's electrical aura that doesn't, you know, is not in sync with the electricity around me.
And muscle cars.
Yes, muscle cars are great. I love cars.
Was that yours in the movie that you drove, the Chevy?
No, but I would have liked to have had that. That was a cool car.
You should have made it something that gave you.
Yeah, I know. I always let these things slip away, and I wanted to hold on to the wooden hand and Moonstruck and the snake jacket, but I can never seem to do it, you know? I can't. I just give them away like a lizard shedding his skin.
Nicolas Cage has a 4-year-old son named Weston, but he prefers to keep his private life private. His new film, Kiss of Death, opens April 21st.